Attending a lecture in English is not an easy task. It's very likely that you get lost, especially for students whose first language isn't English. The lecturer may talk too fast or with a strong accent, or the topic is not interesting or unfamiliar. But we still have some ways to tackle the problem and learn through the lectures effectively. Focusing for 50 minutes, sometimes even longer, is difficult at first, but it's good to train yourself to be able to concentrate and take useful notes. Before the lecture, when preparing to attend your first lecture, you should think about the strategies that have previously worked for you, as well as what is expected at your university. Some lecture materials may be available in advance. Do use them to help you prepare for the lecture. It will help you make the most of it. During the lecture, engage in active listening and appropriate note-taking. Make a note of any follow-up or extra readings or study resources that the lecturer identifies. You may need to look at these later. In most cases, the lecturer will organize the content in order for a student to make sense of it. While lecturing, the lecturer will provide signals and clues that guide the students through the lecture. Thus, the student may find a number of simple ways to follow the sorts of clues and signals to not get lost or miss the key points. There are many standard phrases that the lecturer will use to structure and construct his or her lectures. Lecturers use a variety of techniques, such as giving verbal signposts to alert students when to copy down a key point, as well as providing structure to the talk. Some examples of verbal signposts refer to: first, structure. Lecturers will often set out the structure of their lecture at the beginning. For example, this lecture will examine what? First, we will look at. Then, we will examine. And finally, we will look at. Today's lecture will be in 3 parts. First, I'm going to, and then I'm going to talk about, and finally, I'm going to. The key points to note down are often highlighted and say something as obvious as: the key thing to remember about this is, or the most important consequence of this is. Today, I'm going to talk about. 2. Changing topic. If the lecturer is changing a topic, you may hear verbal signals like, we shall now discuss, or turning to. The lecturer may move on to a new point by saying something like, right, or okay. Pausing is a signal often used to indicate that the lecturers are moving to something new. The third, summary. At the end of the lecturer will usually summarize his or her talk and remind the audience of what he or she has told. More than often, the lecturer will relate the end of the lecture to the opening statement. Many lectures and seminars will contain summaries that recapitulate the key details covered. They are often introduced by phrases such as, to summarize, to recap what has been discussed. Number 4, conclusion. When the lecturer is coming to the end, you may hear a clear conclusion using the verbal signposts such as, in conclusion, or to conclude. After the lecture, review your lecture notes soon after your lecture to make sure they make sense and identify any follow-up reading you may need to do. Talk to your fellow students about what they picked up as the key points. You may want to compare your notes, but do remember, not everyone takes notes in the same way. If there's anything you didn't understand, try to find out now. full of readings and activities can be helpful. But do discuss material with your fellow students as well. If you still don't understand, approach the lecturer in the appropriate way. For example, booking a tutorial, using an office hour, or sending an email. Remember that a little preparation before a lecture can often help you understand more during the lecture. You may want to reread your last set of lecture notes before going to the next lecture. This may help you identify connections between the different topics covered in each session.